Every spring, gardeners face the same question: should I till or not? Most gardening guides give you a confident answer in one direction or the other. Stacey Murphy gives you the honest answer, which is more complicated than either side admits. Because the truth about tilling depends entirely on what scale you are working at, what your soil already looks like, and what you are trying to achieve. In the next 15 minutes, she is going to walk through everything. The science behind why tilling destroys something invisible but essential in your soil, and exactly what to do instead.
And there is a lot of fungi that create webs of life throughout soil, and you're basically ripping that fungi apart. And fungi helps to feed plant roots their nutrients. So those are some of the reasons why tillage is fairly destructive to soil.
This Q&A was recorded at a past Grow Your Own Vegetables event, where Stacey Murphy gives the honest answer to one of the most debated questions in gardening, including what she does on her own one-acre farm. For more information, free resources, and gentle guidance, you can find us at growyourownvegetables.org. And to grow alongside other gardeners just like you, join our free community at gyov.org.
And then I had a couple questions this week about tilling and disking, and the question around, I thought that tilling was good, and let me read the question directly. Where is it? So Roseanne was asking, could you explain a little more about what's wrong with tilling the soil? I thought it was a good idea to turn the soil over before a planting season. So what I wanted to talk about briefly here is the distinction between tilling at a farm level, at a really large field kind of level, using farm equipment, and then versus in a backyard garden or in a small plot growing space. And the word tilling I've seen thrown around to mean various things. And so let's just get clear about the differences here and what's going on. So first of all, let's look at the big scale. This maybe doesn't apply to a lot of you, but the concept will. So this tractor that's basically going through the field and tilling the soil, this is what people are talking about when they say that they are trying to avoid tillage at a large scale, and they're trying to go to what's called no-till. So they're trying to get to a place where they aren't using these tractors to grind up the soil, essentially. And then at the more like backyard level, there's two distinct options. There's a handheld tiller, which you see in the picture on the far left, and that machine is actually very similar to the big tractor that you see. It's just at a slightly smaller scale. And then there's a picture of me. This week I put out one of the videos was called Understanding Cultivation Tools, I believe was the name of the video. And in that video, I show how to use a side fork and I show how to rake. And sometimes people can call that tilling. And so there's a big difference here in what's happening to the soil and the subsoil. So at the large scale with that big tractor, the tractor wheels are basically compacting the earth. The weight of that tractor is compacting the subsoil. And then what's going on behind the tractor is this mechanism these tines that are basically grinding and pulverizing the soil. And the drawbacks to this, we talked about carbon emissions every time the earth is opened up and shifted around. Carbon is emitted into the air, so we're producing a carbon dioxide, or we're contributing to carbon gases, essentially, contributing to greenhouse gases. And the other thing that's happening is that the soil texture, the soil structure is getting pulverized. And I'll show you an image of that in just a minute. So all the work that the life in the soil has done to come together to create structure, you're tearing it apart. You're literally tearing apart the life in that soil. And there is a lot of fungi that create webs of life throughout soil, and you're basically ripping that fungi apart. And fungi helps to feed plant roots their nutrients. So those are some of the reasons why tillage is fairly destructive to soil.
This is the revelation most tilling guides never mention. The rototiller looks like it is improving your soil. In the short term, it might be. But underneath the surface, it is destroying the living network that makes your soil work. That network does not rebuild overnight.
Soil. And then, so on the flip side, what tilling is doing is it's providing a lot of aerated topsoil. And I say topsoil because what the tractor is doing is compacting the lower soil, but the top, 6 to 8 inches will be nice and light and fluffy. And so there's benefits to that because basically your plant roots can grow through that really well. So you have these, the drawbacks on both sides, and the pros and cons on both sides of why you might want to do tillage or no-till farm style. And from my understanding, they're still doing a lot of trials for no-till farming at a large scale. And the other issue that they're coming across is in no-till systems, where they basically have a different piece of equipment. So let's talk about what a low-till or no-till piece of equipment looks like. A no-till at a really large scale, what it looks like is a piece of equipment, same thing, a tractor. The field is filled with debris from the previous crop, from the previous season. And so all of that stuff has been chopped down and basically, mulched in place. So you're building organic matter on top, and the idea is that those nutrients are going to leach down into the soil. And they've shown, they have evidence that this works, that you don't need to till it in for those nutrients to be available, that basically those nutrients leach down. And then what the machine does is it slashes a place in the ground where it plants the next crop. And so the machine will have a setting that determines how often it's going to plant. And it basically slashes open the ground, slashes through all of that matter that's on top, all that material, that organic matter that's been slashed to the ground, cuts open the earth, it plants that seed, and then it basically covers it back up. And that is the method of no-till that's currently being used at a large scale. And it's being used in cornfields and soy fields, and they're finding massive benefits to it. They find that it's much less work. They find that the nutrients are being leached into the soil, and they find that the soil is has less erosion. So these are all great things. But what they're also finding in the no-till system currently, as it exists today in the trials that they're doing, is they're finding larger numbers of weeds. And so in the conventional farming, it's unfortunate because no-till farming also has a lot of herbicides that they're using in order to try to kill off those weeds. So there are people who are trying to push forward the no-till and figure out ways of farming organically and no-till. So this is something that's happening as we speak. It's exciting. More and more data comes in each year.
This is where farming is heading. The science supports it. The practical systems are still being worked out. But for the backyard gardener, the answer is simpler than any of this.
So those are the pros and cons at that large scale. So let's go back down to the backyard scale, because a lot of us are in the backyard scale. So in the backyard scale, you plant a whole bunch of crops, let's say. Let's say you have a garden bed, like a raised bed. It's got lumber around the edges, and it's maybe 4 feet by 8 feet long. And you've planted a bunch of crops, and what you've done at the end of the season is you've harvested everything, and then you have some plant material, and maybe you chop it down and you lay it down into the bed as organic matter on top of the bed. And and then you want to plant a cover crop. Well, that process is a little challenging, right? Because now you've got plants on top of the place where you're going to grow your cover crops. So the way that I recommend is, for the most part, and again, module 4, I'm so excited to get there because we're going to talk all about plants. So in my system, I generally pull out, or basically what I do is I cut the plant down to the soil, the old plants that are there, and then the root systems are underground. All of those will decompose. And then if I'm going to come through with a cover crop, I sometimes like to add some compost. And what I'm going to do in order to prep that soil, because basically what you're doing when we're talking about this tilling and turning over the soil is we're prepping for the next crop. So that's really the question here. How do you prep for the next crop rotation? So what I like to do is I think I have another slide. Yes, okay. So what I like to do when I'm mixing in my amendments is that I will dump the compost right on the bed, and sometimes I will dump it right on if there's residue of crops. Let's say I was harvesting arugula or spinach or something that I harvested all the leaves, but now there's all this like little baby, stems sticking out everywhere. I'll just dump the compost right on top of that. And again, in the spring, I recommend the 1 to 2 inches. And if it's in the middle of the season and you're turning over the bed, then you can lay this light dusting of compost, like the image on the right. And then what I do essentially is I use a fork to do what's called side forking. And this is where it gets confusing because some people call this tilling. And some people call it cultivation. We call this particular thing either single digging or side forking on our farm. And it's part of the French intensive cultivation method. So the idea is to aerate the soil and mix the soil with as little interruption as possible to that soil. So if you go to the video, like I said, from this week, the cultivation tool video, you'll see me using that fork. What I'm doing, essentially, as a reminder, is I'm keeping my back super upright. I basically stick the fork in the ground, use my foot to get the fork all the way down. And digging forks are typically about 8 inches long. Some of them are almost 12 inches long, the tines of the fork. So if you can get that fork all the way into the ground, all the way up to the top of the tine, that's the most benefit you're going to get from it. And then basically you wiggle the handle back and forth. And what you're doing is, if you have that compost that's on top, as you wiggle the handle, air gaps open up, and that compost is able to kind of sink in around the fork. And so you methodically move through the bed with this digging fork. Again, this is a smaller scale. We do this on our 1-acre farm. We do this for all of our beds on the 1-acre farm. So we do not use a rototiller like the image here on the, we don't use a rototiller like this one on the far left on our farm. We tried one the first year in order to try to break up the grass that we had on site. We had double dug the grass beds, and then we noticed that the grass clods were still holding together. So we attempted to use a rototiller to break them up. And what we found was that it was way too much work because the machinery was hard to manage. It was, these aren't as easy as they look. It's a big, loud machinery that's vibrating. You're using your whole body to steer it properly. So it's quite a lot of physical labor to use a rototiller, and we found it didn't really work with the grass. It didn't really mix in or break up what we wanted it to break up. So we opted not to use it, and we did everything by hand. And so we did a lot of this side forking. And then after the side fork, once everything is loose, then we take the rake and we rake it flat. And at that point, if there's any plant material, what's nice is, let's say you left your arugula in or your spinach in, and you had already harvested it, but there was a little bit there. Basically, when you go to rake the bed flat, all that matter kind of rises to the top. It's the lightest weight material. And you can literally just kind of scoop it off the top with your rake and throw it in the compost bin. So that's my method for what some people call tilling, but I don't call it tilling.
This takes the same amount of time as a rototiller. It requires no fuel, no machinery, no vibration. And it aerates and incorporates compost without destroying the living network underneath. This is what Stacey does on a 1-acre commercial farm. It is not a compromise. It is a deliberate choice.
Tilling, it's a little bit of light cultivation. And I think that for all of us, this is something that we need to make our own decision around what feels to us. I believe that tilling in the backyard is, once at the start, it's not such a big deal, because in the long run you're helping the soil and you're making it really nice and easy to use. You're making it fluffy, and then from there you can continue to use it and it'll stay nice and light. So some people opt to rototill once and know that they're doing the damage when they start, but they're rebuilding the soil better than they found it. Some people, they, under no circumstances will they till at all, and they will add a lot of organic matter. And so you have to have enough organic matter to even try the no-till method. And personally, I find the completely no-till method, which would be chopping everything in place, mulching all the time, I find that it's actually more productive to growing a lot of. So I find that my yield increases and my time efficiency increases with some light cultivation. And so when we talk about planting beds and what kinds of plants we're going to plant together, I'll share with you where I do cultivation and where I don't even bother doing any cultivation. And frankly, it's so light. 3 times in the season, I use a digging fork in a single bed maximum. Sometimes it's only once at the start of the season. So it's in my opinion, it's fairly minimal. Would love to hear, I'm going to see if anybody's posted in a thread.
Screenshot this. This is the honest answer. Not till or no-till as absolutes. A sliding scale based on where your soil is right now and where you want it to be. Think about where you were at the start of this video. Empty garden beds in autumn, soil losing fertility every month, no plan. Now look at what you know. Mix 1 nitrogen-fixing legume with 1 biomass-building grass, Austrian winter pea or hairy vetch with rye or oats. Spread 1/2 inch of compost, broadcast the seeds, keep moist until established, lay row cover over to protect from birds, and 3 weeks before spring planting, cut it all to the ground. Let the mulch decompose, plant straight into it. Or plant peas and harvest pea shoots all winter from the same cover crop. Your empty winter beds were never supposed to be empty. Now they never will be again. You are not the gardener who leaves beds bare over winter anymore. You are the one who broadcasts the seeds, who mixes the legume with the grass, who cuts it back 3 weeks before spring and plants into the most fertile soil the bed has ever had. If you want to keep learning from Stacey Murphy, there is a whole community of gardeners growing extraordinary food, completely free, at growyourownvegetables.org. This Q&A was recorded at a past Grow Your Own Vegetables event, and what Stacey just shared with you took her years of growing, failing, and figuring out to discover. Now imagine sitting down with 15 experts, exactly like her. 15 of the most respected gardeners, herbalists, and soil scientists on the planet, each sharing the single most powerful lesson they know, the insight that changed everything about how they grow food, the thing they wish someone had told them at the beginning. Clinical herbalists who can turn your garden into a medicine cabinet, soil scientists who will change how you see every handful of dirt, food growers who have fed entire communities from a backyard. All of it waiting for you right now, completely free at the Superfood Garden Summit.
Go to growyourownvegetables.org/summit, register in 30 seconds, and start watching immediately.